We live in a culture obsessed with action, always doing, always pushing, always chasing the next goal. From childhood, we're told that if we want something badly enough, we have to grind for it, hustle for it, and never stop until it's ours. On the surface, this seems logical. After all, isn't effort the engine of progress? Isn't chasing the way we show the universe how serious we are? But what if everything you've been taught about manifestation has been backwards? What if the very act of chasing your desires is the reason they remain out of reach? This isn't just philosophy, it's physics. In the realm of quantum manifestation, the mentality of urgency and pursuit doesn't just fail, it repels. Quantum reality is not linear, and it doesn't respond to pressure, impatience, or desperation. It responds to something far deeper: coherence. Think about it. Most people try to attract abundance while vibrating with the energy of lack. They visualize love while radiating loneliness. They affirm freedom while embodying fear. And the truth is that the field responds not to your words, not to your rituals, not to your vision boards, but to your state of being. The contradiction between what you say you want and what you actually radiate is what the universe reflects back to you. This is why Neville Goddard said decades ago that manifestation doesn't happen because you asked. It happens because you became modern. Science is catching up to this wisdom. Joe Dispenza explains that your thoughts are electric, your emotions are magnetic, and together they create an electromagnetic signature. That signature is your broadcast to the quantum field. And the field, a matrix of infinite potential, is not moved by effort. It doesn't care how many hours you hustle or how desperately you want something. It moves in resonance. That means your job is not to push harder, but to tune in, to stop chasing and start becoming. Of course, this is where most people stumble. They hear phrases like, feel as if it's already done, or be in the vibration of having. They try to sit down, close their eyes, and imagine they already have the relationship, the money, the freedom. But it feels forced. It feels fake. Their current reality screams louder than their imagination. Why does this happen? Because they haven't yet understood the paradox. The state of allowing is the state that attracts. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect shows us that observation alters the outcome, but only when infused with expectancy and trust, not desperation. When you observe reality through the lens of knowing, the wave collapses into form. But when you observe through the lens of fear, lack, or urgency, the wave remains uncollapsed. Just a possibility, never a reality. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Your energy is communicating with the universe at all times. The only question is, what station are you tuned to? Imagine tuning a radio. You want to hear 98.7 FM, but your dial is stuck at 88.1. No matter how much you want the music, no matter how loudly you demand it, you'll never hear it until you align with the right frequency. Manifestation works the same way. The version of your life you desire already exists. All possible outcomes coexist in the quantum field. You're not creating them from scratch. You're tuning into them, not by effort, but by frequency. This is where ancient wisdom and modern science converge. Neville Goddard spoke about living from the end, embodying the emotional signature of your desired outcome as if it were already real. Joe Dispenza demonstrates through neuroscience how coherence between the brain and heart sends a unified signal to the quantum field. Abraham Hicks calls it getting into the vortex, that sweet spot where resistance melts and receiving begins. Different teachers, different words, but the same truth. The universe responds not to what you want, but to what you are. The challenge is that simplicity scares us. We've been trained to believe value comes only through effort. Transformation requires pain, and progress demands struggle. But in the quantum world, it's the opposite. The more you chase, the more you affirm the absence. The more you try to force, the more you amplify resistance. That's why this teaching feels so radical. It strips away the drama, the rituals, the endless to-do lists of manifestation, and instead leaves you with something unsettlingly simple. Become the version of you who already has it. Most people approach manifestation mechanically. They visualize daily, repeat affirmations, or write their desires down 10 times. And while these practices can help, they often become surface-level attempts to change the mirror without changing the face it reflects. The quantum field doesn't respond to performance. It doesn't respond to pretending. It responds to your authentic energetic state. Being isn't saying you trust the universe while secretly obsessing over timelines. Being isn't pretending to feel abundant while panicking about rent. Being is alignment, a congruence between your inner world and the version of reality you want to experience. Joe Dispenza explains it clearly. Your thoughts are electric, your emotions are magnetic, and together they broadcast an electromagnetic field. That field interacts with the unified field of possibility and reorganizes itself around your signal, not what you want, but what you are. Imagine, for instance, that you desire financial freedom, but every day you're anxious, checking your bank account, imagining worst-case scenarios. Your electromagnetic signature is one of scarcity. And what does scarcity attract? More scarcity, not because the universe is punishing you, but because the field is simply reflecting the signal you're sending. It's like shouting, "I am abundant," with the energy of panic. The field doesn't hear the words, it hears the panic. The paradox is that the most powerful way to change your signal is not to chase a new future, but to embody it now. Feel it. Practice the frequency of your desired reality until it becomes natural. Not as a lie, but as a remembrance. Because somewhere in the infinite multiverse, that version of you already exists. When you emotionally and mentally align with that version, you begin to collapse that possibility into your reality. This isn't wishful thinking, it's science. Neuroplasticity shows that the brain literally rewires itself through mental rehearsal. When you imagine a future event and bring up the emotion of it, gratitude, joy, peace, your brain begins to create neural circuits as if it were already happening. Do that consistently, and your body learns the future before it arrives. When the body believes, the field responds. Neville Goddard captured this decades ago when he said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled." He wasn't telling you to fake it, he was showing you how to fuse with it. To let the feeling of your desired reality become so real, so familiar, that your nervous system calibrates to it. This isn't about begging the universe for a favor, it's about meeting the version of yourself who already lives that reality and pulling that version into the now, not by effort but by resonance. And when that resonance becomes consistent, the field mirrors it back as experience. Something shifts when you stop waiting for signs and start becoming the sign. When you stop watching for synchronicities and start living in sync. That's when reality bends. That's when timelines collapse. That's when life reorganizes itself around you. Not because of luck, but because of coherence. In quantum mechanics, observation collapses the wave into reality. But not all observation is equal. Observation charged with trust and emotional clarity has more collapsing power than observation fueled by fear. So the question becomes, what reality are you consistently observing from within yourself? When people say, act as if, it doesn't mean faking confidence or pretending to be someone you're not. It means stepping into the emotional posture of someone who already knows, someone who isn't waiting for proof, but living as if the proof has already arrived. That's the beginning of frequency mastery. That's when you stop chasing reality and instead become the gravity that pulls it in. And this is where we pause, for now. So far, we've uncovered why chasing repels, why coherence is the real key, and how the field doesn't respond to your words but to your being. But the journey doesn't end here. In part 2, we'll go deeper into how to actually collapse a quantum possibility into form, how neurobiology supports this process, and how to stabilize your frequency. So synchronicities. Opportunities and breakthroughs become your new normal. For now, sit with this. You don't need to chase anything. You don't need to wait for a sign. The version of you who already has everything you're seeking already exists. Your only task is to tune into that frequency. Stop chasing, start becoming. Let's begin with a simple truth. Reality is not solid. It looks solid, it feels solid. But physics tells us it is 99.9999% energy and only a tiny fraction matter. What you call reality is energy slowed down enough to be experienced by your senses. And the structure of that energy is influenced by observation, intention, and frequency. This means you are not a passive observer of life. You are a co-creator, constantly in dialogue with the field. The question is, are you communicating consciously or unconsciously? Most people live unconsciously. They repeat the same thoughts every day, 90% of which are recycled from yesterday. They live inside emotional patterns of stress, worry, doubt, and survival. Their nervous systems are conditioned to expect more of the same, so the field simply mirrors it back. That's why lives feel like loops. Different days, different faces, but the same underlying story. This is not fate, it's programming. And programming can be rewritten. Joe Dispenza often reminds us that your personality creates your personal reality. Personality means the combination of how you think, how you feel, and how you act. If those three ingredients don't change, your reality cannot change. This is why affirmations alone rarely work. If you repeat, "I am abundant" 1,000 times, but still feel poor, act poor, and think poor, then your electromagnetic signature is unchanged. You're saying one thing while broadcasting another. The field doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your true broadcast. So how do we change the broadcast? By entering the laboratory of the self. The first step is awareness. Begin noticing your habitual emotional states. Are you living in survival? Fear, stress, urgency, doubt? Or are you living in creation? Gratitude, joy, love, trust? You're dominant. Emotions are not random. They are signals. They are the frequencies you're sending out. And once you become conscious of them, you gain the power to choose differently. But choice requires practice. This is where meditation, mental rehearsal, and coherence practices become powerful. When you sit down, close your eyes, and imagine a future reality, your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and experience. If you can generate the emotions of that reality, gratitude, excitement, freedom, your body begins to believe it has already happened. That's neuroplasticity in action. You're training your nervous system to expect a new reality. You're teaching your body the future before it arrives. And as your state of being changes, your field changes. The outer reality eventually has no choice but to catch up. This is not instant magic. It's alignment over time. Just as a radio station doesn't broadcast clearly until you're tuned precisely, your new reality doesn't appear until your frequency is steady. That's why many people give up. They try for a few days, don't see results, and declare it doesn't work. But manifestation is not about forcing results. It's about stabilizing frequency. The moment you stop watching the clock and start enjoying the state, reality bends faster than you think. Neville Goddard called this living from the end. It's not enough to think about your desire. You must think from it. To imagine, not the process of getting it, but the reality of already having it. If you desire love, don't visualize the date. Visualize the feeling of coming home to someone who adores you. If you desire abundance, don't obsess over checks in the mail. Feel the security, the freedom, the peace of already being supported. The more you practice this inner reality, the more natural it becomes. And when it becomes natural, it becomes inevitable. Here's the second key: coherence. Science shows that when your brain and heart are in sync, you enter a state called gamma coherence. In this state, your body is no longer broadcasting stress, but harmony. That harmony is magnetic. Gratitude, awe, love, these emotions produce coherence. And coherence doesn't just feel good, it transforms you into a magnet for synchronicities. You start noticing opportunities that were always there, but invisible to your old state. People show up, doors open, reality feels orchestrated. This is why Abraham Hicks says, "Things are always working out for me." It's not blind optimism, it's frequency alignment. When you expect life to unfold in your favor, it often does. Not because the universe suddenly decides to bless you, but because your state of being makes you a match for outcomes that already existed in the field. Remember, you don't attract, you tune in. And once tuned, you experience the reality that matches your station. But here's the part few people talk about: stability. Anyone can get into a high state during meditation, a seminar, or a workshop. The challenge is carrying that state into daily life. This is where practice becomes embodiment. Embodiment means your elevated state is no longer something you visit. It's where you live. It becomes your default. That's when the shift becomes permanent. So how do you stabilize? By catching yourself when you fall back into old patterns and gently returning to the new frequency. If fear arises, pause and breathe coherence back into your heart. If doubt whispers, "It's not working," remind yourself, it's already done. If impatience stirs, shift into gratitude for what already is. Each time you recalibrate, you strengthen the neural pathways of your new self. Over time, the old self dissolves, the loop breaks, the new timeline becomes home. And then, something remarkable happens. Synchronicities multiply. Time feels different, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. Ideas come in flashes. People you haven't spoken to in years suddenly call at the perfect moment. Resources arrive, unexpectedly. It feels like magic, but it's not. It's physics, it's coherence, it's resonance. You've stopped chasing reality and instead become the gravity that draws it in. This is why true manifestation is less about doing and more about undoing. Undoing the programming of lack, undoing the identity of struggle, undoing the belief. That effort alone makes things happen. When you dissolve those, what's left is your natural creative state, the state that communicates effortlessly with the field. That's when manifestation becomes not a technique, but a way of being. Remember this: you are not waiting for reality to change. Reality is waiting for you to change. The moment you shift your state of being, you shift your broadcast. And the field must respond. It cannot do otherwise. Because in the quantum world, resonance is law. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So stop chasing. Stop watching the clock. Stop wondering if it's working. Instead, become. Become the person who already has what you desire. Live from the end. Tune into the frequency of gratitude, love, abundance, and coherence. Stabilize it, embody it, and watch as reality bends to meet you. This is not theory. It is practice. It is science and spirit, mind and heart, ancient wisdom and modern physics converging into one truth. You are the creator of your reality. Not by effort, but by frequency. Not by chasing, but by becoming. And when you become, the field has no choice but to reflect you. That's the secret the ancients knew, the mystics practiced, and science now confirms. So here is the invitation. Today, not tomorrow, begin practicing the feeling of already having what you seek. Close your eyes, breathe into your heart, and imagine. Feel gratitude not for what's coming, but for what already is in the field. Trust that your signal is heard, and then let it go, not with urgency, but with certainty. Because the version of you who already has it is real, and every moment you live in that frequency, you collapse that possibility into now. You are not chasing your dreams. You are remembering them. You are not forcing reality. You are tuning into it. You are not begging the universe. You are aligning with it. The shift is subtle, but once you make it, everything changes. Stop chasing. Start becoming. And watch as the impossible becomes inevitable.